V for Vendetta is a movie about Britain being taken over by a far-right fascist government. This government blames immigrants, Muslims, and homosexuals for the nation's problems and puts them in extermination camps. Our hero V defends women and minorities from this persecution. V calls out the complacent middle class for allowing this fascist government to take over. It is clear that V and everyone else must work together to destroy this evil right-wing government. Sounds like a pretty left-wing film then. However, V for Vendetta is also a movie about a political party manufacturing a virus in a lab to gain power after an election. The party says that their enemies are spreading the virus, and only they can stop the spread by implementing basically a police state with curfews. Only until after the election does the cure for the virus come out. The party insiders get rich off the cure. Once the party gets into power, they start arresting their political opponents and suspend freedom of speech and freedom to a trial, all while the media is uncritical and goes along with government corruption. They are quick to quash conspiracy theorists and support the government narrative at all costs. So yeah, you can see why right-wingers really like this movie now. For the sake of YouTube, I'm just talking about the movie. Don't do anything too hastily. But there are some comparisons to 2020 we'll get to later. Also, I will not be talking about the graphic novel in this video. To my understanding, the movie basically kept all the same characters and basic themes, but watered down a lot of the anarchist message of the novel. My Head Hurts made a great video on the differences between the movie and the comic that I'll link to below. So this movie came out in 2006, and it really shows. It's almost obnoxious how much this movie is dated by their obvious critiques of the Bush administration and the American right at the time. This movie is about how President Bush was going to put Muslims and homosexuals into death camps. BTN is a direct metaphor for Fox News. Lewis is Bill O'Reilly. Gordon is Jonathan Lebowski, the brave comedian speaking truth to power. Creedy is Dick Cheney, because he's bald and has no soul. Adam Strutler is obviously Bush, but looks a lot like another president. Mass surveillance of the British government is a social commentary on the Patriot Act. The torture and extermination camps are a commentary on waterboarding and Guantanamo Bay. This film basically doesn't even take place in England. Like, where's the monarchy? Surely the official head of state would have something to say about a fascist takeover. Were they killed? Do they agree with Northfire? The movie never says. Even though this was filmed in London and is based on a British graphic novel, there's almost nothing British about this film. So why do so many people on the right seem to like this film now? There are three basic reasons. Number one, the right has never been in favor of a fascist government that limits political speech. I'm talking about your normie neighbors, not some anonymous edgelords on Twitter. Your normie neighbors hate paying taxes. Why would they want a larger state that would need more of their money? They criticize the government all the time. They wouldn't want to be persecuted. They love their guns and hate government regulations. I think we saw, during 2020, how much the right hates authoritarianism. They might not have protested the lockdowns, but they sure did complain about it and talk about how great of a job Ron DeSantis was doing for being lenient on lockdown measures. Number two, the right has changed a lot since 2006. They are mostly no longer neoconservatives and are much more skeptical of government power than they were back then. 9/11 conspiracies went from being a left-wing thing to a right-wing thing. They are much more anti-war and more likely to question the official government narrative and protest it. I mean, I say that, but Trump is currently bombing Iran, and a lot of boomers still seem to like it, so what do I know? I guess Republicans never change. Number three, This film basically tells the same story that the right tells themselves about 2020 and the Biden administration. A virus created in a lab in order to change an election, local governments creating police states to lock people in their homes, local governments allowing and even encouraging riots, burning down cities, the authorities cracking down on January the 6th protesters, keeping them in jail without a trial. Obviously, I don't agree with all these, but this is what they think. I don't know if I'm still not allowed to talk about the vaccine side effects on YouTube, so let's just move on. Also, this film can be seen as right-wing now because the filmmakers have watered down the original anarchist message of the graphic novel. V's ideology is so watered down that now anyone of any ideology can join him to oppose these cartoon villains regardless of their beliefs. Seriously, the government in this film are just cartoon villains. Villains with no depth. They are just bad guys, and we root for the good guys. But this film is still very left-wing. Stephen Fry's character, Gordon, who is also gay, has a copy of the Quran in a secret room because, quote, I don't have to be Muslim to find the images beautiful or its poetry moving. That's the left-wing fantasy of how Muslims, Jews, and homosexuals can peacefully coexist despite all evidence to the contrary. How Indians and Pakistanis can exist in the same town and not form rival gangs and kill each other. Unfortunately, the real Britain disproves that. But this is the world where thousands of years of ethnic and religious loyalties of different groups can just be ignored. It's very ignorant of different cultures. This is a classic case of left-wing naivete. He also has a mix of an American, Nazi, and British flag with the words, the coalition of the willing. I'm sorry, but did the Iraq War happen in this timeline? And did Britain support it? The film makes it very clear in the beginning that the United States has descended into chaos after the virus, and that Britain and the United States are no longer special friends. This just destroys the world the movie is trying to build. So this film also has a scene where an Anglican bishop is concerned that a girl he's about to abuse might be too old. So this was made right after the Boston Globe broke the abuse scandal in the Catholic Church in 2002. It was a scandal that involved mostly young boys being abused by homosexual priests in the Catholic Church. So here they have an Anglican bishop abusing little girls. Evie tries to tell him that V is coming to kill him, but he still thinks it's part of the abuse game. Obviously, PDF files, no matter who they are, should be put to death. There are many different types of abuse cases that are all horrible, but in Hollywood movies, all abuse is done by men wearing priestly collars, when in the real world, that's the least common type of abuse. The main reason why they have the bishop abusing girls in this movie is because in the graphic novel, he also abused girls. But this is because the author believed that all authority was bad, so all leaders have to be shown as evil. Also, they cut out a lot from the graphic novel, and basically created the whole pandemic plotline just for the movie. But they kept this in because they hate Christians. When I watched this movie for the first time, a friend pointed out that this movie had a bunch of gay stuff in it because the Wachowski brothers of Matrix fame helped write and produce these movies. If you don't know, the Wachowski brothers are now the Wachowski sisters. That's right, they both transitioned. What a coincidence. This film has one of the most stupidest endings to any film I've ever seen, and we need to talk about it. This is a spoiler warning. V dies, but he wanted to blow up the Parliament building, so now Evie must pull the lever to blow it up. Then Finch, who works for the fascists, but has been having like a crisis of faith throughout the whole movie, finds Evie. He points a gun at her and tells her to stop. She says, "No, V was right about everything." Finch says, "What?" Then Evie says,
"This country needs more than a building right now. It needs hope."
That's just empty rhetoric. Hope for what? A change in government? Wasn't that the point of this? Why would you need to hope for the thing you're doing? No, but we just need to have the audacity to hope enough for a revolution. This country needs more than a building. It needs empty rhetoric. So then, hordes of these supporters wearing his mask just march past the armed military. WTF? I thought this government was fascist. In the real world, people die in revolutions. Revolutions and civil wars are hell on earth. They are chaotic and destroy. The Syrian civil war didn't happen yet, so they couldn't have told them that revolutions don't actually work like that. Wars aren't fun or bloodless. This is just another liberal fantasy of a non-violent revolution where the fascist military just surrenders to unarmed civilians. I mean, that's what happened at Tiananmen Square, right? So the parliament is blown up, and Evie says that no one will ever forget what that night meant to our country. So it wasn't really a revolution, it was just a night people remember. The government is still in place, but they just meet somewhere else now. Maybe the real revolution were the friends we made along the way. But now people's hearts are filled with empty rhetoric that someday the government will change. Yeah, you and me both, sister. This film really shows how the left and the right view freedom differently. Generally, the left believes that freedom comes from doing whatever you want. The rules of government, society, parents, and even the laws of nature are what limit your freedom. The more you break away from these rules, the freer you are. The right believes that freedom comes from self-mastery over your vices. If you are a slave to your vices, you are just a slave. A man might have the freedom to drink alcohol, but freedom is having the ability to stop drinking. We call mastery over vices virtue. A big problem in society is instant gratification. I'm just as guilty as anyone else in that regard. The government limiting people's freedom is not that big of a problem in America or in most other countries around the world. It might be a big problem in Britain, but not for the reason the filmmakers want you to think. No, the real problem around the world is governments not stopping people from committing crime. Brazil, South Africa, Mexico, and even the United States could use a little more police protecting people with no private security from those committing crimes. The president of El Salvador, Bukele, put it best when he said,
"What about the human right of a woman not to be raped? I mean, what about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park? And what about the human right to live?" But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers.
You see, El Salvador used to have the highest murder rate in the world, higher than Syria, which was in the middle of a civil war. Now El Salvador is safer than the United States. Of course, we know liberals are willing to suspend the freedoms of innocent people. They suspended freedom of speech and freedom of assembly during the COVID lockdowns. In El Salvador, Bukele is saving the lives of a lot more people by suspending the freedoms of only a few guilty people with tattoos on their foreheads saying that they killed people. The guilty should be punished, and the innocent shouldn't. They call Bukele a fascist, which says more about them than it does about him. In short, the right likes this movie because it is a well-made movie. This film doesn't have the right message for the time. The message of being against authoritarianism is very played out. Maybe after 20 years of a Bukele-style dictatorship, this film will have the right message for the time, after we forgot why we voted for him in the first place.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.